Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today we have another kind of off-season discussion video. Obviously the off-season's kind of wrapped up. We're kind of in this little bit of a lull where we're getting ready for the season to start. We're now just a couple of weeks away, like 3-4 weeks away from the LCS lock-in tournament. And then LCS, LCK, LPL, LEC, all that stuff's going to be starting really soon. So I'm just kind of talk about some different things that we're kind of looking at headed into the 2021 season, some different talking points and things like that. Today, we're going to be talking about who you got between COREJJ and PERKZ as your MVP for the spring split in 2021. In my opinion, and I think in the opinion of everybody else, these are pretty much the two favorites, preseason favorites for the award heading into the season. And in this video today, I'm going to be breaking down who I think I'm going to have as the favorite heading into the season, why, and hopefully be getting your guys' feedback as well. But before we get into that, a quick word from our sponsor of today's video, which is going to be Draft Buff. It is a fantasy esports website and app where you can create leagues and play with either your friends or just random people you meet on the website as well, because there's new leagues and stuff being created all the time. As you can see here, this is the create a league page where you can make leagues for the LCS, LEC, LCK, and an LCS LEC combination league for the spring split. So that is really exciting, really awesome, really fun. You can do 4-team, 6-team, and 8-team leagues, and you can create a league and get drafting today. They also have mock drafts and a ton of other awesome news and tools on this website. It is really awesome. I'm going to be playing on Draft Buff all spring split long, all season long, and hopefully you guys will be as well. I'm going to have the link for this in the description below, and it's going to be the pinned comment. When you sign up, make sure you use code IAMGERM, and I would appreciate it a ton. Remember to check out Draft Buffs. Here we go. Again, we're talking about COREJJ and PERKZ. They are players on who many people project to be the two best teams in North America. That is usually a good case to be the MVP. In most sports, I'm thinking about professional sports leagues in North America, and so far in LOL esports, MVPs have most often been a player on the best team, for better or for worse, whether you agree with that, whatever. Teams and the people who vote on this, fans, whatever, they like to pick people who are on the best team. They feel like, whoever's won the most, one probably has a ton of good games. Just how League of Legends is, where teams win in a bunch, you're going to look good, a lot better. Your stats are going to be better. You're going to have prettier scores. And people are going to be like, when they play against all the other teams, they were able to carry those games. They were able to win. So it is usually going to be on a team that finishes first, sometimes second, sometimes top 3 if somebody's really hard carrying. But usually the MVP is going to be on the best team in the LCS. That's what we saw last split, obviously with COREJJ taking it down. Again, it's not always. There has been times where somebody on the second place team or third place team or whatever. But I would give the big advantage to the player on the team that finishes first in the LCS to eventually win the MVP. So, when we take a look at Cloud9, we see their new roster of Fudge, Blabber, PERKZ, Sven, and Vulcan. Obviously, we have 3 guys coming back, Sven, Vulcan, and Blabber from last year, where Cloud9 at times looked like the best team in the LCS and one of the best teams in LCS history, and that is not to be taken for granted. Obviously, Blabber was the Spring Split MVP, and again, best player on the best team with the best record, they get the MVP. Blabber wins MVP. He looks like the best jungler and one of the best players in the LCS. Sven and Vulcan look like one of the best bot lanes. Vulcan is first team all LCS support. Sven is first team all LCS AD carry. But obviously as we get into summer split, things start to change. Cloud9 starts like, what, 7-0, 8-0, 9-0, something crazy like that. And then doesn't even end up making it to Worlds, doesn't even end up qualifying for Worlds, which is pretty crazy. Obviously they didn't have MSI or anything to play at. At times, Blabber was one of the guys who fell off the hardest. People really started to question him as maybe not being one of the best junglers anymore. There were some other people who started to pass him up. I know largely people are starting to put Santorin past him in terms of junglers. I know a lot of people also have Closer and Spica kind of closing in on Blabber in a lot of ways, just because he is not so inconsistent, but he can be inconsistent. He's kind of meta dependent. We haven't seen him succeed in a ton of different metas and stuff yet, but he is a huge carry. He is a monster. I think he's going to have an amazing year for Cloud9 again. I think his team's going to be really crazy. Then obviously the 2 new pickups for Cloud9, Fudge and PERKZ. PERKZ and Blabber together is so interesting to me. I think that's going to be so fun to watch. It's 2 absolute psychopaths who are going to go so crazy in the early game. They're going to be making a ton of huge plays. Now, yes, this is going to lead to them inting sometimes. They're maybe going to lose some games trying to make too crazy of plays, but they're going to be a ton of fun to watch. I think PERKZ is really going to help develop Blabber, really take him to that next level in terms of in-game decision-making, shot calling, carrying games, how to win games consistently, but also at the highest level, not only in the LCS, but in the world. So I think that pairing is going to be super, super exciting. And then obviously the big question mark for me and a lot of people is Fudge. He's a very, very hyped up, very young kid. I believe he's like 18 or 19 years old, which is crazy. We've seen him internationally before at Worlds with some OPL teams. I believe he played on Mammoth. Then we saw him dominate the academy scene last year for Cloud9. He looked like probably the best player in the academy scene. So people are really excited for him. He got to train with Licorice a lot last year. He got to scrim against him a lot, got to practice with him. People are very, very excited. But obviously Licorice was a beast as well. He has big shoes to fill. He has big shoes to kind of replace, and they're going to put the pressure on him. Like Cloud9 is going to be playing in a ton of big games. They're going to have a ton of expectations. Cloud9 fans are crazy too. And Fudge is going to have to perform right away. I definitely think he can, but it's going to be tough, especially for kind of a younger guy coming in. He might be a little inconsistent. He might be a little up and down. I do think he's going to have those high highs, but how low are his lows going to be? That is a big, big question for me. But with all this being said, again, that's going to affect PERKZ's chance of winning MVP, just how good Cloud9 does. Is Cloud9 going to be the best team in the LCS? How well are they going to perform? How well is PERKZ going to come in and mesh with his new teammates? I think he's going to work great with his teammates. He has Sven, he has Mithy on the coaching staff. Obviously, they have a ton of chemistry. They've worked together before. It's gone insanely well. Vulcan is a beast. Blabber's a beast. I think they're all going to play super, super well together. And I do think Fudge, as the year goes on, will start to come into his own. But again, if we're just talking about Spring Split, if Cloud9 starts a little slow, if Fudge isn't ready to go right out of the gate, they're still kind of trying to develop some of these synergies. If Blabber is still maybe a little inconsistent, if Cloud9 still kind of hasn't really found their footing back from last season, obviously having such a tragic ending to that year, I'm not saying they're going to do bad. Cloud9 is going to be one of the best teams in LCS no matter what. They're going to have a crazy record, but are they going to be good enough to take down Team Liquid, who has our other MVP candidate, COREJJ? He's the defending, reigning MVP. Team Liquid, I believe, finished with the best record in the summer split of 2020, and they are absolutely loaded. Like, if you think Cloud9 is loaded, man, this Team Liquid roster is loaded as well. Alphari and Santorin being the new guys coming in, Jensen, Tactical, COREJJ coming back from last year. And Cloud9 has an insane coaching staff, but man, Team Liquid has an absolutely insane coaching staff as well. Again, the weakness last year for this Team Liquid team, you could say at times it might be Jensen a little bit, especially internationally, but for the most part, it was Brox in the jungle. He wasn't really as advertised. He did not come over to North America as dominant as many people would have expected. So Team Liquid goes and gets the best jungler in the LCS, the best jungler available in Santorin. Again, in a lot of people's eyes, he passed up Blabber in the summer. And then Alphari was one of the best, if not the best, top laner from the LEC, which again is not a great league for top laners, by the way. Bwipo, pretty good. Wonder, an absolute beast. Other than that, top lane in the LEC is pretty suspect, but Alphari is one of the great ones. He maybe had a little bit of inflated stats because the LEC does not have the best competition in top lane, but I still do think he's an absolute beast. I think he's going to come over and be largely dominant in North America. So I think Team Liquid has a chance to have the best top laner in the league. But top lane in NA is actually pretty decent. Licorice, Impact, we have a lot of guys that are going to stand toe-to-toe with him. Fudge, obviously. So it'll be tough, but I do think Alphari might be the best top laner, if not one of the best. Santorin, probably going to be the best jungler, if not one of the best. Jensen, top 3 mid laner. You know, take your pick between PERKZ, Jensen, and Power of Evil, most likely. Tactical, he's top 3 AD carry. You know, FBI, Sven, Tactical. Those are going to be some of your better guys. And then COREJJ, who is by far the best support in the league. I mean, Vulcan has his moments. Maybe Sword Art will come in and be able to be dominant, but COREJJ is just an absolutely massive carry. And that's why I think he's going to have a chance to win the MVP. Again, it'll be interesting to see who wins these matchups between Team Liquid and Cloud9. And in the end, who does win these matchups? Who makes the big plays? Whether it's PERKZ making a huge play to carry the game over against Team Liquid, or COREJJ making a huge play to bring his team over the top. I think we'll go a long way in the MVP discussion, and in those games, I do favor Team Liquid. I think Team Liquid, especially, again, early on in Spring Split, maybe when Fudge is still getting developed a little bit, both of these teams have new moving parts. They both have 2 new players coming in that they're going to have to learn synergies and stuff with, and they both have a lot of very, very solid players coming back. So they should both come out of the gates pretty strong. But I do just trust Alphari and Santorin a little bit more, being able to come into a new situation and kind of synergize and grow up with their team and really start to mesh right away, more so than I trust Fudge, who's just a younger guy, who I think might take a little bit more time, which is why I might favor Team Liquid a little bit more in the Spring Split. I also think just Team Liquid is more talented. When I take a look at the rosters, like in the top lane, Alphari and Fudge, I would lean towards Alphari. Santorin and Blabber, I would lean towards Santorin. Jensen and PERKZ is obviously very, very PERKZ favored, and that is a pretty big difference, especially at such an important position like mid. But then when we look at the bot lanes, Tactical and COREJJ are every bit as good as Sven and Vulcan. The bot lanes are very, very close for me, but I definitely favor the top side of the map for Team Liquid, and I think that does give them a significant advantage But these teams are very, very close. They're going to go back and forth. And again, whoever wins out in these games, I think is going to win, end up winning MVP and end up being the best player in the LCS. I know people are going to be super excited for PERKZ. I know he's going to come in and pretty much smurf all over North America because mids in NA are pretty weak, and PERKZ is going to have an absolute field day against a lot of them. But supports are not that great in North America as well, and that's really another reason why COREJJ gets to stand out so much. So again, these two teams are going to have some absolutely banger games. They're going to have some crazy matchups. The viewership's going to be insane. The games are going to be so hyped up. And in the end, the matchups between these guys at the lock-in tournament are going to be so fun to watch. But then over the course of the split, the two games that they play are really going to go a long way to determine who is the MVP of the LCS, who is the best player in the league, for better or for worse. Because again, I do think that is kind of a stupid way to decide it. Like last year, just because Team Liquid beat TSM, that COREJJ was then the better player over Bjergsen when COREJJ was a beast, but it was really hard to determine who's better between him and Bjergsen. And League of Legends is such a team-based game, obviously, that the MVP shouldn't necessarily go to the team that wins first or ends up with the best record or anything like that. You can still be the most valuable player on the second best team or third or fourth. But that's how this thing goes. That's how the narratives are written. That's how the stories are written. So in the end, I am going to have COREJJ as my spring split favorite for the MVP as far as the preseason goes. Again, we haven't even seen a single team play a single game yet, so it's a little crazy to be saying this stuff already. But that's how I think it's going to go down. I think Team Liquid is going to finish with the best record in the LCS. I think COREJJ is going to be an absolutely massive part of that. And I think he's going to end up winning the MVP. Again, I think there's going to be great debates and conversations about a lot of different players. I think Sword Art has a chance to come into TSM and maybe do some real damage. I think 100 Thieves, FBI, someday they could both have outside chances. Cloud9 could be Blabber, PERKZ, Vulcan. They all have an opportunity. Team Liquid obviously has a bunch of opportunities as well. Any one of their players, if they dominate, could really do the job. But PERKZ and COREJJ just have such huge fan bases, huge names. They have so much push behind them. The stories write themselves, and again, the narratives really drive the awards like this. So again, I think Team Liquid's going to win the split. I think COREJJ is going to win the MVP. I think he's going to be the best player in the league. But I think Cloud9 is going to be close on their heels. And I think PERKZ is going to be very dominant and very scary as well. And I hope both of these teams perform very well. Because I would really love, obviously, an NA team to go to Worlds and do some damage. And the more good teams we have, they're going to, obviously, when they're playing against each other, they're going to make each other perform better, put more pressure on each other. But then also we just have more chances to go internationally and actually do some damage. So hopefully this is the year for North America. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below. Who is your pick for preseason favorite for the MVP in the LCS spring split of 2021? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. This was what I thought, but you know, it's just my opinion. Your opinion is just as good as mine. Definitely subscribe to Dan on my latest content. Check me out over at Twitch, twitch.tv/I_am_germ. Make sure you check out Draft Buffs. Hopefully I catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.